Hello again, and welcome to season number 3 of Upon Further Review, your weekly highlights of the best things that are happening in the Summit Athletic Conference as well as around the area of the 260, alongside Eric Dutkiewicz. I'm the coach, Shannon Griffith, and tonight we got our weekly show for the 24 season as we're going to look at both the Summit Athletic Conference and the Northeast 8 conference, and we'll always have a guest for you tonight. We'll let that be a secret for now, but Doot, glad to see you back, my man, and I can't believe it's year 3 already.
I can't believe it's year 3. Good to be with you. Can't believe the summer's already over, and here we are once again, and it's already nose to the grindstone trying to get some of the stuff around with the new season upon us, but really excited. We had scrimmages over the weekend. Last Friday night, this coming Friday, week 1. It's going to be an exciting year and looking forward to exciting Upon Further Review podcast all season long throughout the November. And we get into state. It just seems like it was just state just the other day. So good to be with you. And this should be a fun year yet again.
Well, the other thing is that we will let you know if and when we are back up with our sister station, so to speak, 1380 The Fan, 100.9 FM, as you've heard us each and every year on Wednesdays evenings, and we're working some of those things out over there. But once again, tune in every Friday at 6 p.m. for Doot, myself, and Jim Shevlin as we have our traditional pregame show live from on game site of the game of the week. This week will be at Carroll High School, featuring Carroll versus Hamilton Southeastern, a very big time contest this year with a number of tremendous athletes, I should say. Several that have D1 scholarships. Some have already committed. Jimmy Sullivan already has committed to Iowa, a Big Ten. Brady Road going to Western Michigan. I mean, dude, again, the Fort Wayne area not disappointing in the number of D1 scholarship players this year. And the most recent one, Brandon Logan over at Snyder High School, going to Notre Dame to play both football and baseball.
Yeah, it's been a big summer. Brandon being the most recent one, the double duty out of Snyder. He had committed to Vanderbilt out of 8th grade for baseball. And now, the opportunity that's arise, just, a lot of it just playing high school football. And we've got a lot of great high school football athletes in Northeast Indiana that, are starting to make their commitments, especially in the class of 2025. Brandon Logan, Jimmy Sullivan, Stratton Fuller, the list goes on and on and on. We'll be talking about all of those kids throughout the season and a lot of them tonight. And that's what's going to make it fun, because those are the stories inside the stories of the game each and every Friday night. So it should be a fun one to talk about those kids as well.
Well, we're going to get to some of them later, too, when we get to the previews and such. But we better get to our first guest because he's probably still got some game planning to do. So why don't you introduce and bring in our first guest of the 2024 season?
Yeah, our first guest for the 2024 season on here on Upon Further Review, Doug Dinan, the head coach for the Carroll Chargers, joining us now. Coach, thanks for joining us, our first guest of this year. You've been on a couple times. Great to have you back here on the podcast this season.
Yeah, thanks for having us. It's again, it's exciting to start the year, and it's hard to believe that June and July has passed so quickly, and it's time for week 1. So I mean, it's an exciting time.
We're getting older, Doug. I think the time speeds up on us old folk, because like you said, the summer just flashed by.
Yep, it did.
Yeah.
This year seemed faster as well, because school started a little bit earlier, and we didn't have the fortune to have 2-a-days. And so it felt a little bit different. I mean, you hit school and you're into the season schedule already.
Yeah. Well, talk about this season, Coach, this summer, I should say, leading into this season. A lot of bright spots on your team, a lot of names that people are that already know. Jimmy Sullivan back, Road at tight end, just a lot of different guys that are coming. Just talk about this team this year, the growth and what you guys have done this summer as you get ready for another campaign.
Yeah, I mean, we're very excited about this year. I mean, we've got, several returning guys on both sides of the ball. And I mean, it all becomes, it starts with leadership and our success of the season will be determined by the leadership of that senior class. And, guys like Jimmy, guys like Nate Starks, Brady Road, Caden Abbs, just to mention a few, those guys, lead our program, they set the culture, they control the locker room. And that's what we're excited about. We're excited of the unity, the spirituality, the togetherness, the acceptance of being a student athlete, all of those things we're excited about, this senior class and them leading us into the 2024 season.
Sure. The takeaway from a year ago, you guys fall at the sectionals. Where for your team does that journey begin? Is it the next week after season's over? Do you give them a little bit of break? What does that look like, especially with the leadership that you guys have on that Chargers team?
Yeah, it begins right away. The season's over and the kids are in the strength and conditioning class during the day. But, the focus, immediately is to, be better, be stronger, be tighter, have a better culture, do all those things that the intangibles that you have to do to be a better team. I mean, it's disappointing. We finished the season 7-3, and that's disappointing. And I guess that's a good state, of where we're at in our program. But to lose in the first round of the sectional, to a very good Warsaw team, very good team, still, I mean, to be manhandled and not to play as physical as we wanted to play, it's disappointing. And so consequently, you reevaluate everything. You look at, the personnel, you look at positions, you look at scheme, you look at preparation. And that's what led us into the off season. And we feel like, we made strides, we made improvement, we put people in the right places. And then the kids help set a culture, that is going to only accept the best every day. And that's all we can do. We have to win the moment. We can be good right now. We can't concern ourselves about, week 10. We can't concern ourselves about the playoffs. We have to concern ourselves with, this Sunday, I've got to be a great student athlete this Sunday and prepare for practice tomorrow, which will lead me into this Friday night.
Yeah, Coach, you mentioned something that I wanted to kind of dive in a little deep on, because I think we all recognize that after each season, you do a thorough self-evaluation, if that's how you term it nowadays. But coming out of that, what did you specifically learn about your team last year that led to formulating what you were going to do this year? Because I don't think everybody understands that just because something worked 2 years ago or a year ago, it may not necessarily fit your personnel for this year. So what did you learn from doing your own self-scouting?
Well, there's, two things that really are obvious. I mean, and one is the physicality of our play up front. And we had to personnel-wise and, formationally put ourselves into better situations on the defensive side so that when we do face a heavy run team, that we're putting our kids in an advantageous situation to be able to do that. That was first and foremost. Two, the reevaluation of what we're doing in the weight room to continually get stronger, be stronger up front. And ultimately, again, it comes back to culture, leadership, and the buy-in by players, if you will. And so, our seniors have done a tremendous job of leading, of buying in, investing in each other, and accepting hard work, and understand that this is a grind. It's hard. It's difficult. And to be at the highest level, you have to work hard. You have to embrace the difficult nature of everything. But, that self-evaluation continues, throughout the season, from week 1 to week 2 to week 10. if we continue and want to play at the highest level, then we've got to improve every week.
Well, every year, offensively speaking, you've had some talented teams each and every year. And I wouldn't say, again, this year's probably going to be the same. You got Jimmy leading a group of talented kids. I mean, we talked about the 20, some of the kids that are seniors this year, but you've got a young man by Van Pelt who's also got numerous offers already, and he's only going to be a junior. So tell us a little bit about your offense, and who are some of those guys that you're going to be relying upon this year.
Yeah, any time that you return, a starting quarterback, you've got some added confidence, comfort, if you will, to your team coming back on the offensive side. And Jimmy being a third-year starter, playing in state championship his sophomore year, he is the catalyst of the team without question. And, and it's not a secret that we want the ball in Jimmy's hands. We want him to throw the ball. He's a talented runner at the same time, but it all begins up front. I mean, guys like Brendan Coons and Caden Nabbs and, Andrew Rudolph, Mason Ermitter, those guys, Alex Newhouser, Brady Lothamer, they have to be great up front. We have to be able to run the football. We have to be diverse. Nate Starks and Dejon Green at running back for us. They're extremely talented individuals. We've got to open holes. We've got to be diverse on the offensive side. You mentioned some of the receiver guys, a little bit earlier, Brady Road, again, committing to Western, a very, very talented tight end, continues to be better at blocking. Jaden Van Pelt, as you said, and Jaden is an extremely talented person, but, Mason Boffman returns as a starter as well, and will play at X. And opposite of him, is Jaden. We'll move Jaden around. I mean, he'll play in the slot. He'll play at Z. There's different things that we'll do with him. But other guys they're going to be on the field, Logan Heath and Griffin Shealy and Harrison Shealy. I mean, they're talented guys. And the objective is to get the ball into, the proper guys' hands, make good decisions, and let athletes play in space.
Yeah, and you mentioned some of those guys up front as well, and brought up Mason, because Mason's been a heck of a player for you. But Caden Nabbs, he's another kid that's committed to Illinois State in this offseason. Flipping over to defense, because I think that's an area that the last couple of years you guys have really worked hard on and had some success with it. Now, defense this year, how's that side of the ball shaping up with those guys that have played a lot of football for you?
Yeah, I mean, there's guys that are coming back. I mean, Evan Brubaker on the defensive line played a lot for us, and Liam Keys saw some time for us. Brody Beeks was a starter for us in nose, and so there's guys coming back on the defensive side too. Sam Freisinger, an outside linebacker, Ethan Tranquil, Eli Newhouser at inside linebackers. Some guys new in the secondary. Josh Tiller moved from corner to safety. Nate Starks will serve double time. I mean, he will play at corner as well. And Dylan Beam saw a lot of time for us at corner last year. Mm-hmm. Will Jeffries was an outside linebacker. We're playing him to our boundary safety. And so there are returning guys on the defensive side, that we've got plenty of talent. We've got plenty of physicality. We've got plenty of leadership. And it's a matter of dealing with the monotony of the daily grind and coming out with a fire every day to improve, be better, be competitive at practice, and raise the elevation or elevate the competitive greatness, within your program.
Well, we get going here this week, Coach, as you mentioned earlier, and you got a tough Indianapolis coming in this weekend. Hamilton Southeastern under the new scheduling that went into place last year. We'll come back to that as it pertains to the Summit Athletic Conference, because I'm sure Doot has some questions centered around that. But yeah. Hamilton Southeastern is no walk in the park either. I mean, this is a ball club that has a lot of talent as well. I saw they've got two kids that are committed in the Big Ten as well, one of them up front. So what do you expect out of this Hamilton Southeastern team?
Yeah, they're a run first team. I mean, they showed that last year, and and they'll show many times a two tight end look. But they've got a talented quarterback that is back, running back that has played a lot, played against us as a sophomore, too, and again, an offensive tackle that got big commits or big offers, and a tight end that's very talented. So they have plenty of guys on the offensive side, and they're going to be a physical team. Defensively, same type of thing. I mean, one of the best players that they had on their team was Mason Alexander last year, and made two big plays in that game to really turn the game upside down last year, and they've got guys like him surrounding him to continue to be a good program. In 2 years that we've played them, we've had tremendous games against them, and we expect this year to be the same thing.
Sure. Doug Dinan joining us here upon further review. Coach, you mentioned it kind of towards off the top. A lot of different things coming into play, but the earlier start, the no more two-a-days. I'm just curious. I mean, how does that change just overall the coaching and getting your team ready for a season? The two-a-days are gone. You're starting school this first full week of August. Just talk about that a little bit. Just how the scheduling change from the school level has kind of changed the way football teams prepare in heading into the year.
Well, the dynamics of the calendar has changed greatly in the past 15 years. I mean, with the limited contact periods that we have during the school year, provides us with spring ball. 2 days a week. It's going to change to where you actually have 12 practices, a maximum of 3 days a week. So we're going to have, again, in the spring, it is, you cannot have protective equipment, but still, I mean, you think, Coach Griff, back when you were at Manchester, I mean, that was your spring ball, right? I mean, you were, right, not padded up and doing those. So we're doing the same thing in the spring. Add that to our we call it a limited contact period in June and July, where we can only thud. We won't tackle to the ground, but we have counted days that we're allowed to wear helmets and shoulder pads and 5-pack girdle, and you can get after it. And June and July has dramatically changed the calendar to the point to where, honestly, two-a-days are not necessary in high school football in Indiana. You get to August 5th, as we were, your depth chart, everything better be installed. Your installation of your offense and your defense is fine-tuned, and you know what you want to do based upon the personnel you have and your schedule and who you're playing. And it's a matter of then, repeating that on a daily basis and getting ready for that individual opponent each week.
Sure. And of course, the new schedule with the S.A.C, the first 2 weeks, you guys went through it the first year, last year. This is the second year. The benefit of that, now that, before this time last year, we're talking about what is it going to mean. Now you've seen that the opportunity to play some of the big boys, some of the other schools outside of the conference, and to have those first 2 weeks with some great games that we did not see traditionally in the S.A.C. How has that benefited you guys going forward, and really all season long as it pertained to last year?
Well, first, let's talk about how it benefits everybody in the culture, okay? I mean, because, when we had this redesign of our schedule, it wasn't about Carroll High School. It wasn't about Snyder or Homestead or whoever that is. The redesign was to permit first 2 weeks of the game, first 2 weeks of the schedule to you schedule who you want as to how it is most advantageous to your program. Okay. And you can pick up a program that you feel that you can beat, so that you can get wins and build culture, build programs. You can schedule guys that are out of town. You can schedule guys that are close. Our choice was to look to the Indianapolis area, where the state champions traditionally come from, and look to, elevate our play by elevating our opponents week 1 and week 2. And last year, we played Hamilton Southeastern and Warren Central. Close game against Hamilton Southeastern, but a win against Warren Central, against a very, very good football team that has, the top senior, recruit in Indiana and the top junior recruit in Indiana. And they're a very, very good football team. And in week 2 this year, we play Center Grove instead. And if you want to win a state championship in Indiana, you've got to beat those schools, and you have to prepare at the level that they prepare. And so that's our mindset. If it is our desire to play at that level, then we've got to expose our kids to that type of competition. Otherwise, you get to, week 13, 14, whatever that might be for a regional, semi-state, and it's culture shock. And, for us to be able to play at a state championship level as we did in 22, we've got to prepare against great opponents. And that is not demeaning anybody in the S.A.C, because Snyder wins the state championship. They're a great team, and we will, always value, our competition against them. The same can be said for Homestead. Northrop is growing. Northside has tremendous talent. Wayne, watch out for Wayne. I'm telling you what, they are going to be tough. I mean, we played a tough physical game against them last year. But adding 2 games outside, again, this year, we don't play Lures and Concordia, but in a year, Lures and Concordia will roll back onto our schedule. And we all know the success that Lures has had, and they're a very, very good football team, regardless of their size. And so that's our mindset, and I think that it's advantageous for everybody in the conference, because you schedule how it fits and suits your purpose and your needs and your wants within your program.
Absolutely. Well, Coach, we appreciate you coming on tonight, taking some time out of your busy week in preparation for week 1 with Hamilton Southeastern. Appreciate you coming on the show. Best of luck on Friday. We'll be out there at the Gorsuch Athletic Complex for the night 1, and should be fun, and looking forward to another season and watching the Carroll Chargers.
Absolutely. Thank you guys for everything that you do.
All right.
Good luck, Doug. Well, thank you, buddy.
Thank you.
All right. That was Doug Dinan, the head coach of the Carroll Chargers, Coach Griffith. And he back at it again. I mean, he said it. He hit the nail on the head as far as preparing for those bigger teams. Carroll has gotten to that point now where they are one of the big boys in Northeast Indiana for sure, now trying to constantly be one of the big boys statewide. With this new schedule opportunity, they can play teams like Center Grove. They can play teams like Hamilton Southeastern, Warren Central a year ago, and it's going to benefit them and really benefit all the S.A.C schools, those opportunities, and other schools and other conferences in our area. I mean, we got East Noble and Snyder week 2. That'll be a fun, just off the top of my head. So I think this is where Carroll starts to take that next step. The recruits that they have for college, the players that they've had, the system of development that they have all the way through the youth football. And this is where, you want to see a program compete at a high level, especially one of the bigger schools in the state of Indiana.
Well, Doug and his staff have done a phenomenal job since he came on the scene. Now, I can't even count that far back anymore. But ever since he took that job, coming away from Snyder High School as the offensive coordinator, his vision was that he was going to take Carroll to be that next, Snyder-like football club. And he's done that, in some ways surpassed it. And, their entire staff does a great job in teaching fundamental football. And, when you see them line up, that they're coached because their kids are in the spots they're supposed to be and know what they're doing each and every week. So what they've done with that program out there has been a great thing to watch, I guess you could say, from my perspective, in terms of what Doug and his staff have done. And of course, Doug's a really good football coach as well, good offensive mind. And of course, last year of having a quarterback like Jimmy Sullivan. Now you've had somebody at the helm for 3 years. It's kind of bittersweet. You've had this kid for, like I said, the last 3 seasons, and you sleep better at night knowing that Jimmy's taking the snaps, and you've got a few more weeks of that before you have to get some more Tums off the countertop for next season, and knowing you got to work a new one in there. But and they're going to be tested Friday night. Hamilton Southeastern is a team that's very similar to Carroll in a lot of respects. They got a lot of kids that are very good football players. They've got some kids that have got some major Division I offers, as well as kids that have Mid-American Conference type offers. So we're going to see a darn good game Friday night, week 1, and that's the thing that he was talking about. You got to come ready each and every week to play with the schedule they have, because ultimately they want to get to Indianapolis at the end of the year.
Yeah, absolutely. Hamilton Southeastern finished 9-3 a year ago, and for them, made it to the regionals. They won the sectional championship. They played in that sectional. They played Northrop in the first round,
right,
which is actually a semifinal, and then Fishers in the sectional championship. And like we mentioned, these two teams played in semi-state 2 years ago, with Carroll winning out. I think 1380 was out at that game. The snowy game.
It was cold. I remember that.
Yeah, and so a lot of those kids still playing today. Hamilton Southeastern's got a great quarterback, and Chandler. Let me pull it up here. I got his graphic here.
Weston is the quarterback who 18 touchdowns a year ago, and
same, similar statistics even to Jimmy Sullivan. So a lot of playmakers. Look at that too. I noted that this is according to his formerly Twitter page, 22.86 miles per hour top speed. Those of you in the radio booth or on the sideline on Friday night, you might have to. I mean, that's incredibly fast. So should be a fun game with a lot of great players. But kicking it off, and of course, like we mentioned, Coach, it'll be our 1380 game of the week for this coming week in week 1, and we'll be out there at the stadium. Jim Shovelin and you and myself with the PSM High School Football Tailgate pregame show at 6. The kickoff is at 7:30, so we will have an extended pregame show, and then kickoff at 7:30. Post game will be at the Pine Valley Pizza Hut. Crazy to think it's already here, but great facilities out there, and that's probably attracting too, Coach, to some of those other schools in the Indy area, because Carroll has wonderful facilities, relatively new, and that program, it's crazy to see how much that has grown.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about it, I think 2 years ago or a year ago with Coach Dinan. About 160 guys in the program. I mean, for a Carroll team, I know people who went to Carroll who, back 30 years ago, 20 years ago, when it was more of seen as a county country, so to speak, not well attended. They've really turned that tide around, and it is really firing all cylinders. And so it should be a fun game on Friday, and it's always fun to see what becomes of the Carroll program. They got the new video board out there too, Coach.
Yeah. Well, they've done, like I said, they've done wonders at Carroll. I mean, Carroll and Homestead were rural schools but about 20, 30 years ago. And both of them now are one of the top enrollment schools within the Fort Wayne area here over the last probably 10 years. And they're both growing and they're building, and, they've done a great job with the football facility. But I've seen that being a pretty good importance now with the Fort Wayne Community Schools now, as well as North Side, South Side now both have artificial surface, as does Wayne.
Yeah.
And that in itself is a monumental step forward that the Fort Wayne Community Schools have done. It goes to the overall making sure that kids are playing on a safe surface, that they're playing with the best surface, and ultimately they're trying to keep kids involved in the programs, and doing this helps do that. When you put out something brand new, kids love it, as do the coaches, as do mom and dad. So it'll be a great thing to see with only what I think Bishop Luers is the only team now in the Summit Athletic Conference that plays on grass. I think everyone else is a turf field.
Yeah. And talk about monumental. It only took 30 minutes of the first show for us to mention the Snyder Stadium here. So that's coming in another 2 years. So I think final board approval should come here in the week or next week or so. But anyway,
desperately needed.
Yes. Well, and it's there again, a long time coming. And this is a whole nother conversation that we can have, especially when we have some of the Snyder guys on this year. But, I think that's all part of it, is that, now you played football at Northrop. I never played football. I was a runner, but just being part of a team, being part of athletics, representing your school, and the ability to represent your school at your school. I mean, that's a big part of it. And yes, all the Fort Wayne community schools now play on turf. Northside was the most recent one to get it. Snyder Stadium to come. They play at Northrop at Spooler Stadium, which has turf. So, and I think, that leaves Luers, and really by and large across the region, not too many schools have the turf or have the grass anymore and have gone to turf. And I think that's a good thing because when it gets into October, November, and it's a mud bath down in Bern at South Adams, you go
not no more, because they now got turf.
Now they have turf. And so beautiful facilities across the area. We're looking forward all season long to go around to different games for games of the week. I know that Brett Rump and the guys were working out their schedules. And so each week we'll have those announcements. But this Friday we'll be out at Carroll to the start of the season. Looking forward to that. Well, Coach, we talked about the S.A.C, lots of different schools. I think at this point, going through some of these teams and some of these games and kind of the outlook for some of these teams as we start. And I think, talking to Coach Dinan, Carroll's a team that's primed to be up there towards the top. Let's look at some of the other teams. I think starting in that bigger division, Division A, we got to start with the state champion Snyder Panthers. A little bit different team on the outside, but man, do they got some guys coming back on defense. It'd be really interesting to see where this Snyder team stacks up with the way they kind of way graduation pertained to them, especially on the offensive side of the ball.
Well, that Coach Tittman and his staff, they'll do a great job with whoever they got. Lining up for them. They'll have them well coached, well prepared, a veteran coaching staff that has coached together for a number of years. And, Brandon Logan's going to be a big part of that as well as I'm trying to think of the defensive back along with him at corner, Jamari Kolobani. There's a tongue twister.
I probably butchered the name once again. I'll have to get every year I got to get the pronouncers of some of these kids, rightfully so, with a name so difficult so often. Kamari is great, and
he's committed to Delaware, which is a very, very good school out on the East Coast. But he chose them over some MAC offers, which kind of surprised me. But this kid's got a lot of speed. He makes a lot of plays. He's a lockdown corner. So he's the guy that they can put up against whoever they're playing against is best at wide receiver. And there'll be a lot of them this year and not have to worry about them. And that's what makes Logan such a dangerous player defensively, because he's kind of got that free roam and go to the football mindset. And I think, like you said, I think it's just going to be offensively what they trot out there. But, they've always had good running backs. And it just is a matter of time who shows up that at that spot. They usually have two. And ultimately, like Doug said, it's going to be quarterback who drives the bus, so to speak. Offensively will be at the quarterback position.
Yeah, Aaron Vance, the new quarterback for the Snyder Panthers, getting his opportunity after a couple of years of Kieron Billingsley and some of those other spots on the offensive line. One of the big things for Snyder is that offensive line. They lost several guys to graduation. Ethan Dotson going on to play at Air Force and all of that. So that will be interesting. Defense, I think, Brandon Logan, you talk about Landon Fry, an IU baseball commit. You have Adam Blakey, a lot of playmakers on that side of the ball that are going to bode well for Snyder.
And I think we'll see some of those guys potentially appear on offense because they got too many good athletes. Logan is one that could potentially be a guy you see on offense as well. He got the number 1 jersey, which is voted upon and given to the best, the person that does the best throughout the summer months. So, he's going from number 4 to number 1.
Yeah.
But there's other guys that we could possibly see line up on offense as well.
Yeah, I think, it's one of those, just a dynamic player, center fielder for the baseball team. We're going to be talking a lot about him all year, and hopefully we can catch up with him later on in the season and talk about his commitment to Notre Dame. I mean, it's something special there. And I think that will be the interesting side of when you have those high-powered offenses against a defense like Snyder. And then does Snyder find that offense, which I think they kind of did last year, because last year I feel like we were in the same spot of saying, well, the defense is going to be really good. The offense has got some question marks, and look, it all found itself out. You got Uriah Buchanan, Kieron Billingsley, and a state championship. So Snyder really knows how to find the right people for the right spots, and I fully expect that again this year. Another team that's trying to rebound in the S.A.C, coach, in that bigger division, the Dwenger Saints. And what intrigues me about this team, just hearing some of the sound bites and things and articles coming out from different media outlets throughout from Media Day, is the amount of returners and who they've got coming back, and the ability to kind of reload there and use guys that found themselves playing at the end of last season that maybe weren't expected to play, but have now kind of been thrown into the deep end, so to speak, and now have that experience as they come back around from a team that was 6-6 a year ago.
Yeah, no question. They got a young quarterback by the name of let's see, I had it here a second ago. David Callison, a young, going to be a junior this year, I think. But he's a young man that can throw it well. He did well in the scrimmage the other night against Carroll. I think, I'm sorry, Callison's at Northrop. It's Stevenson. Yeah, yes, you're right. I apologize. You got 2 young quarterbacks to keep an eye on. Jordan did great in the Carroll scrimmage the other night. And when Dwangers had a quarterback that can run the show, they have become a very, very deadly team to play against, because their coaches are very good offensive-minded coaches as well, and defensively as well. I mean, we've got some great high school coaching staff right here in the Fort Wayne area that do such a great job with their kids. Dwanger's one of them. But I'm anxious to see how Jordan does this year. Throws a very good football. He can scramble. He can do some quarterback stuff that they like to do. And they may have just found a guy that they're going to have for a couple years.
Yeah. And talk about the running back play. Gus Tippmann is a name that I've heard thrown out there, a younger kid as a junior. But interestingly enough, we always go, how many Tippmans are in the Dwenger? I just looked it up just now. According to I don't have the official depth chart, but the most up-to-date roster I have via Max Prep says 2 Tippmans on the team this year. So it's kind of like when Snyder goes from 36 seniors to 32, you're like, a little bit of a drop. No, but realistically too, there might be some other Tippmans out there, because sometimes, with their
And like I said, Henry Jordan, let's get that correct because I didn't, I got the two mixed up because they're the two young bucks coming along.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think they're going to be a team to watch early on to see how well they come out of the gate. Last year for them was kind of an up and down season, I guess you would say. But I tell you, I think this year you got to watch the Saints because I think they've got some guys that can play ball, and I think you're going to look for a team that's going to be hungry.
Yeah, I mean, the 6-6 a year ago, 4-3 in the S.A.C. The disappointment kind of could fuel that team. Andrew Tryon, a big name on that offensive line. They lost 4 offensive linemen. He comes back. He's the name there. So they had 7 or 8 sophomores in that sectional championship game. That's going to prove well. They did actually have some Carroll transfers coming in too. Caden Bush being one of those names that stands out on that list. So it should be interesting to see how some of that pans out as well. So it could be a rebound year for Dwenger. And I think for them, it's that same business as usual mentality, whether they're 6-6 or 11-2. That's just the way Jason Garrett prepares those guys for sure. Another team that is we'll move on in the big division, Northrop. You mentioned David Callison. And Coach, I'll put it like this. Callison comes back, a young quarterback, a good arm, played baseball as well. He's got some targets to throw to at Northrop. This could be a kind of an interesting offense to see, given that you have the offense that you have at receiver with some of the names that are coming in.
Well, you got the Guilford boys. And I think it's Jaquan is a big-time recruit at wide receiver. He's got offers from Tennessee, Ohio State, West Virginia, Penn State, plus others. I mean, it's a crazy. And I think it's his brother. It's Quan. I think his brother, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. So they got those two kids, and then they got this kid that transferred in from Mount Carmel, Jamari Brown, another. Yep. He's a junior 2026 recruit, and he's already got offers from Mississippi, Ball State, Kent State, Eastern Michigan. So the Bruins definitely have talent at a lot of positions. Of course, it's going to be a matter, do they have the guys up front that can help along with that? But Coach Bowens, I think he's looking for a better year with this group. Now that he's got a couple years under his belt, and I'm interested to see how well they do with a quarterback that can throw it around a little bit. And he's spent 1 year getting acclimated to high school Friday night, and we'll find out real quick. But there's no question they got some talent.
Yeah, Callison, the quarterback. Class, he's going to be a junior. He is a junior now that school has started. 821 yards and 5 touchdowns, 10 interceptions a year ago. So he throws the ball. Now he's got some good targets. Again, Northrop continues to try to find their footing. Coach Dinan at Carroll mentioned it. An up and coming team. Again, tough sledding for them in that big division. But also too, that's just Northrop is one of the bigger schools in the state of Indiana just by enrollment, and that's what determines a lot of those things. So should be an interesting team to watch, at least in the beginning, with so many playmakers, especially the young man coming in from Chicago, Jamari Brown there as well. Moving over to the smaller side, the B division, if you will, in the S.A.C. We'll go ahead and start with the other state champion from the S.A.C. Last year, the Bishop Luers Knights. Another year for them coming in. They're going to move up to Class 3A. Side note, Snyder moves up to 6A, but Luers moves up to 3A. They're the defending state champs. They placed first place a year ago. S.A.C. co-champions with Snyder based off of the tiebreakers and rules and divisional breakdown. But, a lot coming back for this Luers team, Coach.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, they lost some real deciding who's going to fill in a quarterback again for them.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is a good team. with 16 seniors on a Lures team. So this is a 2A school in size.
Yeah.
They're moving up to 3A. 16 seniors, 25 juniors. So, I mean, they're not going away anytime soon. No. 4 of the 5 returners on the offensive line. Christian Buston at nose tackle, a name that
big time player.
Really a key that I noticed that come out of media day too. Deontay Eskridge comes over from Bluffton.
Wow.
I believe it's a brother of Dwayne, but a Bluffton kid coming in, made the transfer, really solid for the Tigers last year. He comes in onto the.
Is he the running back?
He might be playing both ways and playing some running back. So that'll be interesting to see how I think he's more probably a defensive end as well.
Okay.
Jalen White back, all state. His dad is a coach there, and a couple of the brothers on the team. There's like 3 or 4 guys. So, that's, we saw Lures come alive at the end of the year. They lost some guys to graduation, but also too, they've got a lot of guys coming back that have played both ways for multiple years. And I think Lures has another team, especially on the B side, where they're not playing Carroll, and they're
right.
a little, and everybody's schedule is different. And like we mentioned earlier, they'll rotate next year after this 2-year window, so that the matchups will change. But Lures should be a good year for them, and how does that also set up for their run in 3A? That'll be interesting to see as well.
Well, they're definitely going to have the talent, and it takes them, it may take them a week or 2 to get acclimated, kind of like they did last year. But once they get that ship pointed in the right direction, look out, because they're the type of team that can make a big run and riddle off a number of wins in a row, kind of like they did last year.
Yep. Another team in this smaller division, if you will, the Northside Legends. Another team that is trying to bounce back from a year ago, 3-7. Of course, graduated Tay Johnson, who's now at Notre Dame, Jordan King, who's now at Purdue. But they still got some great guys, great talent. Jamari Pearson, who's getting some big-time offers. James Early, a name that you need to know early on for this season, who's gotten some traction in the across the state as far as some of the early season, preseason mentions. So the senior class, has found success, and then they lost success. 2 seasons where they struggled last year, but 2 years ago, really good season. So it'll be really interesting to see how this Northside Legends team kind of bounces back again this year.
Well, the Early kid, I don't know who's going to block him. Number one, I mean, he is definitely a disruptor on their line of scrimmage, big, strong, and physical. And of course, Pearson is, of course, the talent that he has and the ability to go get it, so to speak. So they're going to have some talent there. And again, it's a matter, can they put it all in motion and get it going on track? I mean, I think last year they struggled at the quarterback position after having graduated a real good one, and it took them a while with that. And that's kind of what led to a little bit of the fluctuation of their season last year.
Yeah, absolutely. So 3-7 a year ago, definitely not what they were hoping for. And sometimes injuries plays a role in that. With some of the guys going down, but ultimately a new season for Northside. They got the turf at Chambers Field. So the guys who are fast are going to be even faster now, and really cool digs out there as well. So that should be an interesting team to watch. How about the Wayne Generals, Coach? I mean, that's a team that, week 1, we've only had one person on, so we keep going back to what Coach Dinan said, but he said, look out for this team. And we've seen those bright spots. We've seen the playmakers that they have, and guys like Harold Mack and Jake Sharon, Sherwood Haydock, a great coach for that style of ball. Is this a turn the corner year where, especially in that smaller division, they've got an opportunity to make a dent and vie for a conference title? They hung with Lures last year. They did. I think it was 3-point game or 2-point game in the end.
Yeah, it was a back and forth game. But, Harold Mack, he's a big time recruit as well. He's got an offer from Marshall, Ball State, Miami of Ohio, just to name a few. You got Sharon as well, who's a really fast player. Look, Coach Haydock does a great job with taking what his hand is dealt to him and then finding the pieces of the puzzle to put together and putting kids in the best possible position for them to make plays. And, I think this year, again, they're going to be one of those teams that you better not sleep on, because they're a team that can run right by you with the talent they have. And they're a team that makes all those coaches a little bit nervous when they're on the schedule because of the talent that they have.
Yeah, 5-5 a year ago. They do have at Homestead, at Lures back-to-back weeks. And then they have Carroll at home, Northside and Snyder in there. They also have Concordia and Southside to round out their schedule. And that's the key part. You play who's in front of you. And maybe those early games with Indianapolis Crispus Attucks and South Bend Riley will help them as well. But yeah, a team that started off kind of feeling good about themselves, started 2-0 and then dropped the next. And it was kind of one of those things where keep the snowball from rolling down the hill. And I think by and large, they were able to kind of right the ship towards the end of the year and got a big win against Northside. But when you throw Snyder in there, then the Dwenger sectional game, it gets to be tough. But another year older for this group, it should be interesting to see how the Wayne Generals play out as well. Moving on to the S.A.C. in that B division, we've got the Southside Archers coach, your 2-time back-to-back PSM 7-on-7 champs. I mean, at the very least, we talked about it last year, some momentum heading into the season by the success and the buy-in and the way things are going and building the culture leading into a season. And that's big. As a coach, that's huge to have the guys believing in themselves.
Well, and the other thing that I noticed is we had our annual Friday Night Lights meeting a couple of weeks ago. I came by Southside High School, and they had a lot of kids out for football this year. And that's the one thing that they needed. They needed numbers because they lacked depth. And that's what always would cost them in all their games, is the lack of depth. And they usually just wore down, and that's or hung on barely to win a game. And because they've got kids playing both ways and they're playing 100+ snaps a game. So if they've got depth and they can continue to find those kids that provide them the ability to platoon kids more so than playing both ways, they're just going to be that much better. And they're going to be another team that, again, the talent that they'll find and have will cause teams trouble because of matchups and things of that magnitude. But I'm kind of anxious to see what we get from Southside this year, being at year 2 for that whole staff.
Yeah, absolutely. And what's interesting about that team, to me, the quarterback battle going into the off season, KJ Alexander was pretty much the guy for that team, a young kid. I think he was only a freshman last year, now a sophomore. Robert Murphy III is the other quarterback that they were even sharing time. So I think, but from a team perspective, having those competitions at different spots too makes everybody better. And the other name to watch, and we've heard his name before, but really now is he is a sophomore too, Javon Irby, the running back. Right. There again at the PSM 7-on-7, interviewing Coach Andre Goodwell after the game, it was, during the interview, he called Javon over to take part in that interview, put his arm around him and say, this kid is our workhorse. This is this paraphrasing to say kind of the centerpiece of that Southside team. And so a really good kid, a young group again, but when you play freshmen, when they're freshmen and now they're sophomores and some juniors on that team, they've got the experience, and it's going to take a while. But also, too, like Andre said, I don't have a lot of seniors either. So it's that continuity where we're not turning over. We're these guys are 2 or 3 years in now, and it's great to see. So that's a team that 7-on-7 is a lot different than 11-on-11, but also 2 years with Coach Andre Goodwill is a heck of a lot different than 1 year with this coach or another year for this coach and that uncontinuity. So I'm hoping for good things for them. A great team as far as who they have leading them, and good kids, and it should be fun to watch as they continue to play on. And then rounding out the S.A.C. and the small division and really the conference in total, the Concordia Lutheran Cadets finished 0-10 a year again, Coach, a year ago. Definitely not what they wanted, but also too, only up from here in some regards, especially when you have 15 seniors on a Concordia team that is not used to having 15 seniors on a team.
Yeah.
Good.
Well, remember last year, too, it was kind of a little bit helter-skelter there with the coaching staff, with one coach kind of ducking out and, it wasn't a good scenario for the kids or the team. And so you can bet this year they're going to be a lot better, and they'll be a lot better from day one than they were last year, day one. And so, again, this is a team that benefits by playing in the Summit Athletic Conference. And then by time it comes time for tourney, they're always a team that's prepared, that can go into it and make a run.
Yeah. 15 seniors this year, 3 last year. They went 0-10. Avery Cook, a first team all S.A.C. both ways. That'll be a name. Zach Spielman on the defense, beside Victor Sawyer at running back. Manigal has Tim Manigal, who is the head coach and athletic director. He was the coach and became athletic director, took away, came back after a year. He's back. I think he expects they're a lot better situation now. So I would expect more than a goose egg in the win column for the Concordia Cadets this year.
And Tim's a good coach, really good offensive mind. So I definitely feel they'll be better prepared.
And that's the first team in the conference that will admit they basically have 2 seasons, the regular season and the S.A.C. and now the 2 games up the top, but then also the postseason. And they value being in the S.A.C., playing that stiff competition when it comes to tourney time, because that has paid dividends for the cadets over the years as well. One last team we did forget in the S.A.C. to jump back. I don't want to forget these guys because I'll hear it, especially as a Snyder grad. The Homestead Spartans.
Yep. Chad Zolman and his crew.
Yeah, Coach Zolman. Another team that played a lot of young guys towards the end of the year, kind of had the injury bug. But now, thrown into the fire, they've got a little bit of an edge now and getting after it this summer. And this is another team looking to rebound on the big side that Dwanger and Homestead in there just looking to wreak some havoc and make some hay.
Well, quarterback's a year older, makes him a little bit better, and he can sling it around and make good decision. I'm thinking
Michael White.
I wanted to say Jalen, but I knew it wasn't Jalen White. It was Michael White. But he's a tremendous football player, quarterback, does well, can throw. It's got a strong arm. You got Sam Stewart, who just committed to Purdue a day ago. That kid last year was one of those kids that would flash during our broadcast. And when it happens, when those kids flash, you're like, man, who is that kid? Because he makes a ton of plays. Well, it was Sam. Quite honestly, he made a ton of plays for them, and not surprised that he's a Big Ten linebacker that's going to Purdue because he's a hell of a player. They got to replace the running back spot, but I definitely feel like you too that Homestead is going to be better this year than they were last year, just because of continuity in some key positions.
Yeah, absolutely. Michael White threw for just over 1,000 yards a year ago in his sophomore campaign, now a junior. Threw for 9 touchdowns, added 6 on the ground. So a dual threat for Homestead. And really, there again, we were, there at one of the Homestead games early on in the year, and it was like, boom, this kid, we were introduced to him, and very good basketball player as well, really good athlete all around. And so, should be a good year for him. And then, yes, like you mentioned, Sam Stewart on the defensive side heading to Purdue, at least committed 6'2", 205, a decent sized kid there. So should be a fun one to watch. And so that kind of rounds out sizing up the S.A.C. here on Upon Further Review, and all of that. And Coach, I mean, do you have a pick for who you think the champions will be in the conference? Do you want to go out on the limb or alienate?
Yeah, can I edit it? Can I edit it? Can I edit it later? I think Carroll's going to be a team that's going to be awful hard to beat. I just think they got too much talent on offense. They got Jimmy Sullivan, who's a tremendous quarterback. And I just think this year, because of Snyder's graduation, lost a lot of key components to it. I just think Carroll's going to be a team that is going to be awful tough to beat. And I think they'll be the one that will recapture the bell. But I wouldn't be a bit surprised if somebody like last year, like Lures did, came out of nowhere and won a part of it just because of, the schedule, the way it worked out for them. So, but I think Carroll's the team to beat. And I just think with what they have on paper right now, and if they can come out of those two big games at the beginning, unscathed and keep guys healthy, then I think they got a great chance. Yeah.
And I think Carroll too, a team that put up 33 points a game last year on the offensive side of the ball. And really, it probably comes down to that. There's several games. I mean, we really can't say one particular game, because we found that even late into the year last year, last night of the season, there were coaches and athletic directors who were so confused on or needed some clarification on what actually happened as far as deciding the S.A.C. We wound up with Snyder and Lures sharing, and whether it was and realistically, like I said, and this is kind of getting into the old stuff a little bit, but I was under the impression there was not really divisional champions or divisional winners to begin with, but that played out into helping to decide the S.A.C. on the final night. But Carroll in that regard, and then I think Lures again, just by virtue, a lot of it is to their schedule: Northrop, Wayne, Concordia, Northside, Dwenger, Southside, and then they finish at Homestead. So I think being in the smaller division, and there again, my personal opinion is that Northrop and Lures should switch. And it's because realistically, if you look at the historically speaking of both of those programs, Lures is a 2A school that can play 4A, can play as a top team, and it traditionally has been. Northrop has not been that, and I think it would benefit both clubs, so to speak. Well, maybe not in Lures, but it would benefit Northrop to switch, and from a historical perspective, and that's just my take. But nevertheless, this is the way it's divided. So I think Carroll and Lures, Snyder trying to stick their beak in there, Dwenger trying to get in there. Maybe Homestead can do, because Homestead gave Snyder that loss a year ago. So anything can happen on Friday night. So it's going to be a wild season as well. So.
Yeah. Well, we've covered, I say, A to Z here tonight, Doot, and nice to have Coach Dinan with us again. And, as we work our way to week 1 this Friday night out at the Gorsuch complex there at Carroll High School. Don't forget to catch Jim Shevlin, Eric Doot, Dutkiewicz, and myself 6 o'clock for all the pregame festivities on the PSM pregame show, 6 to 7, about 7:15, 7:20. So we're going to have to really make sure we are hydrated Friday night with all the games that are going on, because we've got a ton of games going out, but we'll cover all the games that are, Summit Athletic Conference, NE8, S.A.C, you name it. There's a ton of ball games that'll be happening Friday night.
Christian, you're in there too now.
Yeah, Blackhawk Christian now has gone to 11-man football. So tune in for all that with the gang. Then, of course, me and my partner, Brett Rump, will have all the game action as the Carroll Chargers take on the Hamilton Southeastern Royals Friday night at 7:30 kickoff. We'll have all that. And, of course, after the game, jump on over to the Pine Valley Pizza Hut for the post-game show there at the Pine Valley. Come on out, sit down, say hi. Make fun of Rumpy while he's on air, all that good stuff. But appreciate Doug Dinan coming on. And, of course, my partner here, Mr. Eric Doot Dutkiewicz from Parksview Sports Medicine. I'm the Coach Shannon Griffith. This has been Upon Further Review. We'll see you next week right here on our best friend, StreamYard. Good night, everybody.